He lays it on the rock. Angel tells him to pour the broth over it. All of a sudden you realize that there's an angel, that the Lord himself has his staff. He leans over and touches the rock. The whole thing explodes in the fire, and everything's consumed.
Back to Mount Carmel now.
Everything that man presented to God becomes an acceptable offering. What have you give to the Lord lately? Cost you. Remember, it tells you that they come and they ate everything and they stole everything, but somehow he had this goat, a lamb, some bread, some flour. He had it stashed somewhere. Right? Didn't even hesitate. Don't leave. That ain't us. No, we're going to bounce around from meeting to meeting. Because we don't have a relationship, we're not going to say, I'll be right back, stay here, let me bring my offering. What is there in your life that needs an offering applied to it? What is it? That's what God is saying today. Now, your offering could be your time, could be your study, could be your meditation, it could be financial, it could be asking someone to forgive you that you've wronged. Isn't that in your heart, Father? Mm-hmm. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those that trespass against us? Huh? Isn't it? This has been really good today. But I want to tell you something. You're not being taught this so that your head can do this.
Or your mouth can do that.
You're being taught this so there can be some treasure in here that God can pour on the rocks and set it on fire in somebody's life with his Spirit.
Amen. He is the humility. Humble yourself before the Lord. Remember, you have to honor God in your humility, all right, to right the scales there, so that the provision can flow through virtue into your life. It's humility. When you read the story of Gideon there, I automatically hear Isaiah standing in the throne room there, listening to a conversation, and automatically recognize the weakness in his life. Woe unto me, for I'm a man of unclean lips, and I dwell among men of unclean lips. Right? There's a weakness in me. There's something that needs to be. I have an issue. I have an issue that needs to be dealt with. All right. And what did the angel of the Lord do? He went over and took the coal off the altar and touched his lips, touched the hem of his garment. In other words, like the woman with the issue of the blood, and immediately it was taken care of. And only then could he say, "Here am I, Lord, send me. Here am I, Lord, send me." People that are interested in ministry and being used of God and being commissioned by God, listen to this. Listen to this. Recognize the weakness. Recognize the weakness, because that's the only strength that you can operate in. All right? Recognize the weakness. What is in you that needs to be dealt with, that you need to humble yourself before God about? All right? You talked about the woman with the issue of the blood. All the other people were walking around with their heads held high in the presence of the provision of the living God. Walking around, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. I've got it together. I'm all right. The only one that got blessed in that entire crowd was the woman that realized that she had an issue, that realized that there was a weakness in her, that realized there was something that needed to be touched in her and needed to be dealt with. And she humbled herself. She humbled herself and risked her life. How'd they overcome the enemy? By the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives even unto death. She risked her life. She risked her life to get to the provision. She completely humbled herself. She laid it all down. She laid it all down and completely humbled herself and crawled through the crowd and just touched the hem of his garment. And in that weakness, his strength was manifest. It flowed through the virtue. When the scales righted, it flowed like a river through to stop her river of blood that was flowing. All right? It flowed. Humility is the key. Recognize what's weak in you. Recognize what needs to be dealt with in you. And humble yourself before God. Don't walk around like the rest of the crowd saying, I'm okay. I'm blessed and highly favored. That's the one we really love to use. I'm blessed and highly favored of the Lord, even though all hell's coming against you. All right? Recognize what's weak in you. That's your ticket. That's your key. That's where His strength is manifest. Go in that strength that you already have. Now what He told Gideon? Go in that weakness that you've already identified in yourself. And my strength will be made manifest there. I'll provide it for you. I'll do it for you. You'll overcome this whole army just like you're fighting one man. I'll be your provision. All right? Recognize the weakness in you. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. Address it. Present it to God. Don't go anywhere. I got an offering I need to bring you.
Elijah said to the widow of Zarephath,
Give me some of that bread that's in your hand.
what
Bring
did
me
he
that
say to the
offering.
little boy with the bag of lunch?
Yeah.
Give me what's in your hand.
Give me what you got.
This is not isolated incident. What was Elijah doing when she was making the cake?
Come on, don't miss it. He was what?
Sitting where? What did Jesus tell the disciples to make the people do?
Sit down. Relax.
There was much grass in the place. Sheep. Much grass in the place. The provision of God was already there. So I want you to sit on it. What did he tell Gideon? Where was it?
Strength's already in you, son. It's right there in what you call weakness.
In order to recognize that, it requires humility. Humility is not weakness.
No.
Humility is strength that's under the control of the Holy Ghost. My God. Not by might or power, but only by, say it to who? The Lord. Who's sitting on the rock waiting on you. No, you go on to town. Yeah, I know they got a Burger King down there, but
I'm going to rest. I'm weary. I'm going to sit down.
Enter into a covenant with something that God's told you not to do. The temple of God is always left unbuilt and in ruins in you. How's the work going in Jerusalem? That's what Nehemiah said. Oh, horrible. Well, why is that? Oh, we didn't do what you told us to do. We married the neighbors. We didn't like the term Israel, so we raised up our term, Samaritan. So before Christ goes to the cross, He's got to redeem all the truth.
Why? Samaritans had the seed in them too. They came out of that same bloodline, that same seed was in them. They had a birthright to it, just like the rest of them. It's like all of us.
Go back to that. Well, actually go back to Noah.
Well, she wanted to talk to him about that. When she came out of the town in Samaria, she wanted to talk to him about what Abraham taught and why we worship. He didn't even talk about that. Why?
Even before that.
Yeah. It's a done deal. I already took care of that. We're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the finished work. Right?
You gotta identify the weakness in you.
What was the weakness in her? Bitterness, resentment, loneliness, not acceptable, no self-esteem. She was a prostitute. He told me I didn't have one husband. I didn't have many.
5 and 1 I'm with right now is not my husband.
Number 6 ain't over.
Number 6 ain't looking no better, is it?
Number 7.
Yeah, she was talking to number 7. 7 was, there's your 7, yeah, John, good job.
Oh yeah. Don't you love the wisdom of God, the Spirit of God?
Just flows around the room.
Sitting on the well. Well, Jesus, aren't you going to get hungry? No, I have food to eat you know not of. I'll just sit here and eat the manna. What manna? The Word. The Word my Father speaks to me. That'll nourish me.
You go ahead, because we end up living by bread alone. Going into the city.
But by every...
Word that proceeds out of the mouth of the living God.
No, you're going to go eat the leavened bread.
Yeah.
But I need to stay here and celebrate Passover with my Father. Because this whole city needs to be redeemed. One woman affected an entire city.
One weak woman
One prostitute.
led the entire city out.
What did Rahab do?
Same thing.
What Bathsheba do? What Deborah do? How'd they look at Mary?
What did Esther do?
Hooker, you hooker. Man, oh man, oh man. Woo, good stuff. We got a river flowing through here today, ladies and gentlemen. Get in the river. Covenant. Don't be married up with things that aren't of God. Because you're going to raise children that's going to haunt you a lifetime.